front here. Alright. Now I've got my hood up. Now, so what I'm going to attempt to do is hold this while I do this. Now, obviously this hood just kind of goes willy-nilly. So I like to use my bar tool here and just kind of force it up under an edge, like so here, as my hood prop. So that way it's a little bit more firmer while I'm trying to pull on this. So the goal here is, once that I've cleaned up under here, is that we want to take this excess and we just want to kind of roll it around the side here so that it has a nice even look. Alright. With a little bit of heat, low heat. I like to use a torch, so it's not exactly low heat. It's just a matter of placement of the flame. So I'm going to try to attempt to get this camera angle just right. As best as I can. I know this is really shaky, guys. I'm so sorry. Try to get that in a feasible way. Alright. So I like to use my wrap glove. It's a little dirty, don't mind that. And I try to get these angles. With the wrap glove, it just helps with low friction on the material. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of pulling this edge over and under. Running my hand across the top. Again, pulling down and under on the corners. You want it to have a nice little finished look, especially if you're going to have your hood open and showing it. You don't want a bunch of wrinkles, and it doesn't look good. So if you have to use a little heat, you'll begin to get these little fingers that pop up right here, and sometimes you can't rub them out. So a little bit of heat, and a lot of this stuff will just lay down. Now, with the inch, it's going in a good little ways. Sometimes you have a hood, if it's pressed, it'll have kind of a ledge where you can kind of flush cut this, or you can take your cut tape and lay it in there and then come back over. In this case, he really doesn't have that, so I'm just going to gauge it at 1/4 inch all the way in and trim it all the way around so it has a nice finished look as well. So a little heat there. I'm going to run my edge around here as well. And it just kind of lays down. You don't have to overheat this stuff. If you do, you're going to burn it. Or you're going to kind of get a glassy look, especially with this carbon fiber. If you overheat it, you'll kind of get a nice little glazed look. You definitely want to avoid that if you can. So for this guy, I'm not going all the way down and under, nothing fancy like that. He just wants the exterior shell done. So I'm going around and making sure my corners are nice and neat. Again, with a kind of an outward motion and just pulling with this particular Avery it doesn't give you much problem. So I can just kind of lay it down nice and smooth. We're gonna go to the other side, work our way around. Keep the top edge, lay it down. And again, you know, I have to heat to get some of these fingers out. And it's just necessary. Now, a couple things to keep in mind, depending on where you are, what kind of atmosphere you're in, especially with what would be deemed necessary with how much heat you have to use for application. You know, my shop right now is about 72 degrees. It's enclosed. Don't have a breeze. I'm not working outside. If you're inside an enclosed garage, that's great. If you're outside, hopefully you pick a day where the wind's not real heavy or anything like that, or it's too cold, because this stuff has a working temperature. Let's say, for instance, that it's 40 degrees outside, and you just kind of get an itch to put some vinyl on the hood or on the roof or something like that. It's going to be too cold. You're going to find that you're going to have to use a lot of heat, and the material is just going to fight you. It's going to become very brittle. It's going to be hard to work with. So just try to pick a time, if you can, or an area that's going to allow you to be in a kind of a climate controlled atmosphere, or just a nice and warm day, not too much of a breeze that's going to make the job even harder. So I'm just working around these rear edges here. I've kind of cut it to kind of shape of a triangle. And I like to take my ear that I have made there, and I just fold it around nice and smooth. Work my way up the back side of the hood here. And as I'm just kind of rolling it under, nice and flat, not trying to create too much of a stress area. Work my way up around here. Now, what I mean by kind of a triangle, or an ear, or whatever you want to call it, I have kind of an ear there, and with two hands and a little bit of heat, I kind of take my thumb just on the edge there. Is where you can kind of see it, and I just pull as best as I can around that, and then I pull one ear, then I pull another ear, and I just kind of rub this guy down to the side. Go up to the center here, and I'm just putting firm pressure on this edge as I'm doing this. You can kind of see that bubble there. And as I'm taking my finger, just kind of running the edge of it, I can feel the edge of the film just on the tip of my finger there. And I'm rubbing it up under. So I've got my edges down the way I want them. I don't have any creases, no fingers, no funkiness. You know, just a nice little rounded corner all the way up underneath, all the way across. The same right there. It's a nice little coverage area. Makes it almost look like paint. So we'll come across here, run the edge of my nail in that groove in this instant. I'll come around here, and I'll just double check everything in here, and it goes up. Okay. So the next thing, once we've got all that down, we can cut, or we can post heat. What I'm gonna do is, what I like to do is I go ahead and cut my edge, and then I'll post heat the edges so that it gets a nice firm grip and we don't have to worry about lift. Now, if you have a lot of stress, you definitely want to post heat, but how it's best to lay the vinyl, is not too much pull, not in any certain direction, because if you have stress on those edges, it will lift back up. So I'm going to take my blade, a fresh clip. Now, I always try to cut left to right, especially if you're using a hobby knife, or in my case I'm using an NT cutter blade. I just run my blade out just a little bit. I'm not trying to use a samurai sword or anything like that. I quite honestly need a new blade in this, but I'll just run it out just enough so that I'm not applying a lot of pressure. And at the same time, I'm trying to use the top edge of my finger to run across, and I'm gauging it about what I would consider a 1/4 of an inch. But this right here is about a 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch. And I'm not applying a lot of pressure. I'm just lightly cutting this, just as I was going to score it like I would tile to break it. And I'm not trying to move fast at all. Don't want to be sloppy with this. I'm just going to run it up the edge of this hood. Basically just staying in that groove that is here naturally. You can see he's got some bad paint right there, and it's just coming off. So I have a nice finished edge. And again, I'm just going to lightly trim up under here. There is a nice little groove that I can stay in. I'm just going to cut that there. Cut across. Now, with my blade, I'm just going to stay about a 1/4 inch in. Give it a nice uniform edge, because I don't have anything else to go off of. And I'm just lightly scoring it across, up under the hood. I can lift that edge up, peel it across. It's a nice little edge. Again, it's just important. You don't have to move fast. There's no sense in getting in a hurry unless you're not patient. This is definitely not a gig for somebody that's not patient. So again, just trimming this out nice and neat, so that way it looks uniform. I'm going to run my edge in this groove again all the way down so it matches the other side. Again, not getting in a hurry. You get in a hurry, you're going to make a sloppy cut. I'm going to cut up just under my edge of my ears in the back and rub that edge down. And the same here. I'm just going to run my blade just up under the edge, cutting through, up under. No stress in that area. Now on the back of the hood, where I folded underneath, I want to make sure that I've completely covered that area underneath, and rub it down, make sure everything